Chapter 9. Belief makes all things possible. One very important aspect to your light work is the power to believe. The absolute knowing that the mystical is all around us will allow you to open your mind to source information and allow it to flow without the blocks of preconceived ideas. I was fortunate enough to be raised in an environment that supported this belief. Not only was it present in my home life, but the universe even seemed to have lovingly raised me in a town that would further enhance the knowing that anything is possible. I didn't think I would ever tell my story. My mother told me that what I'm about to reveal will seem unbelievable to most, but that's the nature of this chapter, to believe in what seems unbelievable. I guess I should begin with my family name, which dates back to the late 18th century from a quaint village in Italy. The mere notion of a medium whose family name means the light seems just a bit too amazing and otherworldly. But who am I to question the unbelievable? My entire life dwells in that realm. I come from a long line of great female mediums and psychics, and we are branches on a family tree that includes my dear great-grandmother, whose married last name was Lalumia, pronounced Lalumia, and in Italian translates to the light. My grandmother, Grace, the mystic, who put onions in your socks to rid you of evil spirits and fevers, believed in the old ways of chants, candles, and curses, and honored the name while considering it a calling card. Throughout my childhood, the women of my family would instill in me the importance of our namesake and all that it meant. The gift of bearing this name meant that we were born to share all things mystical and clarify what others call the supernatural. To us, the mystery of the spirit world was neither odd nor frightening, but it was absolutely natural and easy to explain. Growing up as a young girl in northern New Jersey, my mother always talked to me about the white light. She repeatedly told me, "Sahvanna, always surround yourself with the white light." She would say this each time I would run outside to play in the earthly world. She taught me that this was the ultimate form of protection, knowledge, and power, and one that was unstoppable. I never questioned it. At about the age of 10, I began to hear voices in the night, and they would always hover, but never seem to really haunt me. My entire body would vibrate from the spirits that tried to enter it, but it would be quite some time before I learned how to handle them. "Leave me alone," I would tell the spirits. "Go away. I surround myself with the white light. I surround myself with the white light," I would say before I drifted off to sleep. The light is as much of who I am as my blood, my bone, and my own spirit. How it all began. Growing up, my mother, Marilyn, was quite a sensitive child who trusted and communicated with angels to provide her with knowledge and direction. She was always exceptionally advanced for her age and an avid reader until this day. Each Sunday, she would look forward to the comic section in the weekly paper, but one Sunday, something else caught her eye. At 7 or 8, she read an article on mental telepathy, and she became curious about the powers of the mind. She decided that on the perfect way to test what she had read about. About a year earlier, her beloved dog, Girl, had disappeared after having puppies. Her father took Girl away when she grew tired when he grew tired of her endless litters of puppies. Marilyn never forgot her and dreamed of the day she would be reunited. The very next day, she repeatedly called the dog in her mind, squeezing her eyes shut and yelling as loud as she could in her mind. On the third day, while playing in her front yard, she miraculously saw what appeared to be her dog running toward her from down the road. But the condition of the dog was less than desirable. Skinny, dirty, and with a broken chain around her neck, her dog stopped and looked at her as though she knew she had been called by the sound of her master's thoughts. The broken chain was evidence that she heard her from afar. Sadly, her father frightened her dog again, only this time she never came back. Marilyn lost girl again, but she was left with a new understanding of a universal connection which she would later pass down to her children. My mother's penchant for the metaphysical world would never seem peculiar at all. My grandmother Grace was a one-woman demon chaser who made sure that nothing evil came close to herself or her family. She believed in the ancient methods of putting curses on people who wronged you, and the healing rituals which removed the evil spirits that would make you sick in the first place. If you suffered from headaches, Grace would place a bowl of oil and water on your head. She believed that the spirits were attacking your head because someone gave you an insincere compliment. The spirits are jealous, and they're making your head throb, she would whisper. She then proceeded to place a bowl of oil and water on the head of the sufferer and make the sign of a cross again and again as she spoke in tongues. If she saw two eyes in the water, or two circles of oil, it meant that you had also had the evil eye on you. Naturally, the only solution then was to wear a red ribbon and a horn around your neck to make the eye go away. More serious prayers about ridding evil spirits could only be done at midnight on Christmas Eve, when Grace prayed for the wellness of her entire family for the next year. Grandmother Grace was sure that she could ward off nuanced evils such as the common cold. If your chest was filled with mucus, she defied medical science and simply put a drinking glass over the congestion and then waved a candle under the glass. White smoke would fill the glass, and she would then place that on your chest. It would suck up the skin a bit from the lack of oxygen, but Grace believed that it was also sucking the cold out of your chest. If you have a fever, she cut up potatoes and onions in thick slices, put them in your socks, and then place them on your feet. These will draw the evil fever spirits out of your body. When the onions are cooked, the spirits will be gone, she promised. Years later, when I was born and had a kidney infection with a high fever, my mother gave me antibiotics. My grandmother put onions in my socks, and I smelled for a week. Nothing seemed abnormal about all of this to us. My grandmother's home was always filled with paranormal activity. For Christmas in 1967, my mother had given her brother Joey a Ouija board as a gift. He was just a teen and was fascinated by the paranormal. He loved to hear his big sister talk about ghosts and haunted houses. One day in early January, they decided to try this new toy. Sitting at the kitchen table, Joey wondered just what this thing was all about and if it would be powerful. They placed their hands on it and waited. To their shock, it began to move. "Who are you?" they asked. "Who's this?" The planchette started to move swiftly, and they could barely keep up with the spelling. My name is Achak, Achak, Achak. Where are you? They asked, and were starting to get giddy at the way the pancetta was flying around the board. I am here. Where? Here in the kitchen with you, the spirit explained, adding that he was of American Indian descent and he died at the age of 12 when he went to the river to gather water for his family. He explained how he had slid off a narrow ridge and fell to his death. They wanted proof that the spirit of this Indian boy was really there in the kitchen with them. Prove you are here. Show us, they begged. Soon the spirit went on to direct them to certain things around the house. Go into the cupboard and you will find 3 pennies and a buffalo head nickel, the spirit instructed. Joey ran to the cupboard as directed. Sure enough, there were the 3 pennies and the buffalo head nickel. Achak had another assignment for Joey and told him to go into the second bedroom down the hallway where he should look under the bed and he would find 3 tennis balls and a crumbled up piece of paper with these words on it. Michelle, my 12-year-old cousin, theme paper. Joey ran down the hallway with my mother following closely on his heels. Swooping under his bed, he retrieved a piece of paper, uncrumbled it, and saw the clear black wording of Michelle, theme paper. Then he retrieved 4 tennis balls. But you said 3 tennis balls, Joey told the spirit. I didn't see that one. It was too far back under the bed. Achak. We're going to call him Achak, okay? Spelled out on the talking board. The games continued for hours. Could this be? Was there really the spirit of a young Indian boy in the house with them? Some 6 months before, young Joey went with his father on a construction job and had unearthed a small skull while they dug up the site. It appeared to be a human child the size of about a 10-year-old. Perhaps it was an Indian burial ground because the area had a history of Indians. Could this be the skull of Achak? Did the skull in the basement have a chance to introduce itself through the talking board? For Joey and my mother, this was becoming too real, and it was kind of amusing. Because the spirit was happy and playful, they felt no fear. He joked with them and played tricks for hours. Both my mother and Joey were having so much fun with the spirit, they didn't want to stop playing with the board until the spirit's playfulness began to change. Suddenly, Achak's tone changed, and a certain feeling of evil filled the room. The spirit began to cry out for help. Repeatedly, he began to spell out, I pain, over and over on the board. What happened? What's wrong? They asked. Danger, evil here, and I cannot protect you, the spirit warned. The laughter and games came to an abrupt end as the light, playful spirit was being attacked by some dark entity. Suddenly, the pancetta flew from their hands and shot across the table and hit the kitchen wall. My mother said Joey took the board outside and broke it into pieces and wanted nothing more to do with Ouija boards. Something remained in the house that was evil and dark. Joey passed away in a tragic drowning accident only a few months later at the age of 15. That was just the first of many bizarre and tragic events that occurred during the 50 years my family owned the house. Eventually, after my grandparents' passing, the house was passed down to me. My family did not stay there long. It was only about a year before I found a note in our mailbox that read, "If you're interested in selling your house, call me." The unprovoked offer caught my interest, and I called the number on the note. The woman, Lola, explained to me that she had contracted to buy another two-family home on down the street, but the deal fell through. Our home was very similar, and she thought we might be interested in a good offer. I took her up on it and sold her the house. It was only about a year and a half later I was told that she hanged herself off the dark staircase in the hallway that led to the downstairs apartment. It was chilling news, and I thanked my guides for getting us out of there as quickly as possible. The legacy of this house was marked with some tragic events and an extreme amount of paranormal activity. The Ouija in the cupboard. In my own home with my brother, sister, and I, my mother would take out the Ouija board and conduct mediumship readings for a growing list of friends and neighbors who heard that my mother could reach out to the great beyond. The Ouija board was a fixture in my home and blended in unobstructively next to the toaster. When my mother worked on the Ouija board, I noticed I could always hear the spirits' messages in my head before they got a chance to spell out the words with the planchette, an early sign of my mediumship potentials. My mother was also amazing at automatic writing, and the pen in her hand seemed to take on a life as it stringed words together in sentences with no breaks. Like a little psychic sponge, I absorbed all of this and became educated to the ways of the mystical, and there were nothing unusual. When I was 3, I linked to the spirit world for the first time. Being an extreme sensitive child, I knew my mother's pain was severe after the loss of Joey. I was too young to remember him and never really saw a photo of him because it was too difficult for my mother to have reminders around the house. Yet, one day I came out of my bedroom after writing with pen all over my arm, which was an activity I was usually forbidden to do. My mom looked at me and I said, "Mommy, Uncle Joey told me to do this. He is here. He came to see me in my room." She gasped when the markings of my arm resembled a drawing he had done of a cross with complicated patterns and inlaid designs. "Uncle Joey came to see me," I explained. A year later, my mother was conducting psychic readings for a cousin, and I was under the table playing with my magic 8-ball. I was 4 years old and shaking the magic 8-ball while I listened as my mother prophesied. "You're going to California," I stated in a clear voice from my spot on the cold linoleum. "What is she talking about?" my cousin asked my mother. A week later, she called and reported in amazement that her boss had called her into his office. He wanted her to transfer to a bigger role in another office in another state. She packed her bags and left for California. All this seemed completely natural to me because I was raised with the belief that this was normal. A place to belong. When I was 7 years old, we moved to a shingled colonial home in northern New Jersey that must have dated back to the Revolutionary War. It was nested in a humble valley in the Ramapo Mountains, which were a part of the Appalachian Trail of upstate New York. There is something very magical and mystical about the Ramapo Mountains. No one was sure the exact age of the home my parents purchased in the early 1970s because the deed stated unknown. We were all quite excited to be moving to the country. There were mountains, lakes, and fields as far as the eye could see, and my grandparents now lived right across the street from us. Once we moved, there was an unofficial promise of a happy life because our previous homes were small, rented apartments. Now our future seemed bright, with both a home and a yard to play in that we could call our own. My parents could not have chosen a better community. The crime rate was non-existent, except for the 2 kids who, in a mischievous act gone terribly wrong, climbed to the roof of a pizzeria and fired off a shotgun toward the town hall across the street. With freakish accuracy, the shot stuck and killed the judge who was residing in court at the time. This Ripley's Believe It or Not type of incident gave our town a spot on the front page of the daily news, but it wasn't the only out-of-this-world tale that gave the small town a place in history. The town I grew up in was always a blue-collar town with, with middle-class folks just like us who valued family and tradition, but it also had a very strong mystical undertone with rich Native American history and forelock legends. Growing up, the events that occurred in our town not only bolstered my belief that the mystical always surrounded us, but beckoned me to seek it out. Close encounters of the second kind. When I was a young girl, I would hear stories from my grandfather about events that occurred surrounding a nearby reservoir, the picturesque lake just minutes from my house. A newspaper article read, January 11th, 1966, started like any other midwinter day in the small suburban town. The air was clear and cold. Kids were enjoying the holiday vacation from school, and residents of the borough went about their usual daily routines. Little did they know that before the day was over, something would happen, something fantastic and unexplainable that would change the lives of many of the townfolk forever. One early evening on a winter night, police began to receive reports of a glowing, fiery round object hovering above the water of the reservoir. It bobbed and hovered there as not only the police watched, but residents gathered to stare in awe. My Uncle Joe and grandfather, who lived minutes away, raced there to have seen it in the sky as well. It was reported that police began to receive calls from towns within a 20-mile radius reporting this unidentified flying object. Police and townfolk alike were there, stunned as they watched the object land on the frozen water and burn a hole right through the ice. There were other sightings within the next few days, and then the activity stopped. No one could ever explain what the mysterious, spinning, glowing light was, and to this day, curiosity seekers visit the site, waiting for perhaps another celestial visitor to appear. It was well known by everyone in the town that the government would regularly send researchers to the area to set up equipment and study the site. The incident was recognized by many UFO researchers as the authentic sighting, and even after all these years is known as the Roswell of the Ramapos. Mysterious mountains. My grandfather loved the Ramapos Mountains, and even at an advanced age continued to hike and visit the mountains often. He loved them so much, in fact, at his request, when he passed in 2003, his ashes were scattered there on the mountain ridge. The mountains just vibrate with the energy of the Native Americans who once resided there. One visit my grandfather took through the hiking trails proved that the forces watching over the mountain were not to be taken lightly. Guardians at the gate. Right on Ramapo Ridge, just before the entrance of the Wanacue Reservoir Dam area, are the ruins of the house known as the Van Slyke Castle. The house, the lake, and surrounding area have interesting histories themselves, but the original Van Slyke Castle, known as Foxcroft, was built in the late 1800s and for reasons unknown left abandoned in the 1950s. Eventually, vandals broke in and torched the castle in 1959. Since its destruction, the ruins have remained there for curious visitors to explore and imagine what the elegant structure was like in its glory days. The stone walls, fireplaces, and foundations that still stand are now overgrown and covered in ivy. One spring afternoon, my grandfather took my brother Rick and my uncle Joey up there to hike the beautiful trails through the Ramapo forest. As they approached the area of the castle, my grandfather heard something making its way through the bushes. He told the boys to stop, and they stood on the trail in silence, waiting to see what appeared. A few moments passed by, and they saw nothing. My grandfather gave the boys the go-ahead to walk forward on the trail to the castle. As they proceeded, my grandfather spotted a pack of wild dogs running out of the woods onto the trail from the castle. He described them as wolves, gray and white, with ears that stood erect. He described their growling like the sounds of demons out of hell as they came towards them. They lunged at the boys and attacked them viciously, taking hold of both the boys' limbs and shaking their heads in an act of prey drive that was meant to kill. My grandfather grabbed one dog by the scruff of the neck and took out his pocket knife. He said the head of the dog spun around in his grip and looked at him with pure evil in its eyes. Before my grandfather could stab it, the vicious dog retreated and took off down the trail. The boys had been knocked to the ground and were stunned. "Are you okay?" my grandfather asked, out of breath. "Ooh, who just cashed at me? Thank you." "Yeah, Gramps." My brother looked at his sleeves. "They had no teeth," my brother said. "No teeth?" Joey reported the same thing. Not a mark on the boys. The guardians of the Van Slyke Castle had issued a stern warning: stay away or else. My grandfather said he and the boys turned around and decided not to visit the castle or hike the trail that day. Listen, that we would never go there again, because what? Talk about that was your favorite spot. A portal to another dimension. The vortex is located just past the reservoir dam on a long dirt road that had been cleared in the wooded area. We have hiked up there many times, and the eerie vibrations can be felt by anyone who dares to enter the area. My mother told me that the location was once where cannonballs were brought to soldiers who camped in the spot during the Revolutionary War. As a medium, each time I have gone up there, I have heard the echoes of soldiers' voices or sounds of metal clanking. There are still some spirits lingering in the area from the war. In fact, one day while visiting the vortex, I came face to face with the spirit of the Revolutionary War soldier of a Revolutionary War soldier in full gear. He appeared to be digging a grave. I tried to dialogue with him, but he would not communicate with me. He just continued digging. But the history of the area goes deeper than the war. It is said that the site of the vortex is also on an Indian burial ground, which was disrupted when DuPont placed an explosives plant there after World War I. From the very start, the plant was to be plagued by disaster. In 1917, 400,000 pounds of smokeless powder exploded at the plant. The explosion that rocked the area for miles killed several people. The unofficial theory is that between the energies of the spirits trapped there from the war and the Indian burial ground and the deposits of chemicals from the DuPont company, the ground was activated and an electromagnetic field was created, creating a vortex or portal to other dimensions. Observers have reported seeing dragons, tree sprites, angels, and other entities there. Many people have documented and studied the area. Orbs, mysterious figures, and other worldly beings from ancient civilizations are said to emerge from the ground and have been spotted at the vortex. One researcher even claims to have connected and communicated with a group of astral plane beings that call themselves Endorians, who act as sentinels and guard the ground. The mysterious Ramapo Mountain people. The Ramapo Mountains seem to be home to the unusual, and growing up in the shadows of this mystical mountain not only fueled my curiosity for the metaphysical, but beckoned for me to seek it out. The mountain is also home to the mysterious community of people called the Ramapo Mountain people, or Jackson Whites, not a name they prefer. These people have lived an isolated existence tucked away in the Ramapo Mountains for hundreds of years. It is said that these people are descendants of runaway slaves, Dutch settlers, and rogue Renaissance soldiers who have deserted the British during the American Revolution. After the end of the war, they fled the frontiers areas of the mountains and have remained in the woods for hundreds of years. Frozen in time, these outcasts spent an isolated existence in shacks with no electricity or heat within the old mining areas of northern New Jersey. In the early 1980s, the government stepped in to provide funding to modernize their unsafe living conditions. At this time, some of the children began to attend public school, and I became friendly with several of them. My curiosity of their secret society urged me to seek out these kids and get more information. I did befriend a girl named April, and she shared with me the mysteries of their lives tucked away deep in the old mine area. Eventually, she trusted me enough to invite me to her home. During one visit, I had a strange experience. It was a typical day as we sat in April's room and talked about the normal things: school, boys, just the teenage girl talk when she excused herself from the room to get a drink. I sat on her bed, gazing out her window, when a small boy approached the window from outside. I waved, and because it was a warm spring afternoon, the window was already open. "Where's April?" he asked, and seemed in a rush. "She's here. She'll be right back," I said. "Tell her Smoochie needs her to come outside. We're playing ball." Then, as quickly as he appeared, he seemed to be gone. When April returned to the room just moments later, I relayed the message. A little boy came to the window, Smoochie, He wants you to come outside and play ball, I said. April looked puzzled. Smoochie? I asked. Did I get the message wrong? Smoochie is dead, she said, just like that. What do you mean, dead? He was just at the window. About 5 years old, I said. Then April began to tell me about her cousin, who was nicknamed Smoochie, who died in a fire about 5 years earlier. She said they had no heating system in the shack they lived in, and a kerosene heater they were using ignited and set the house on fire, killing 6 children, including 5-year-old Smoochie. She recalled the scene of the children hanging out the second-story window, screaming for help. There was no way for the fire department to get up there, and certainly no fire hydrants. She recalled the horror of seeing the children disappear from the window when the second-story floor collapsed. There was nothing anyone could do to save them. This incident finally prompted the government to intervene and updated the living conditions of the Ramapo Mountain people who had been living in shacks for years with no modern amenities. April then began to tell me how she was haunted by Smoochie and her other cousins who perished in the fire, that she heard their playful laughter outside her window all the time. Looking back, I can understand why Smoochie reached out to me. Not fully understanding my mediumship gifts at the time, the incident was kind of creepy, but April must have been a budding medium as well, and my communication with Smoochie validated her belief that the children were still around. April and I found this as evidence that the children would never leave until someone released them. The Ramapo Mountain people had deep spiritual beliefs rooted in the Native American ancestry. About a week later, April and I conducted an afterlife ceremony, a Native American ritual that would ensure the children move on and not roam the area any longer. As we sat in the circle in the dirt during the ceremony, I witnessed the ethereal bodies of 6 children rise above a fire pit and then seem to disappear in the smoke. The children were released, and April never heard the playful laughter outside her window again. The power to believe. For me, these stories are a part of my life, my history. I was raised to believe and never doubt that anything is possible, that there are beings or creatures that exist in other dimensions and we can communicate with them, that loved ones never cease to exist, and that we all share the same life force, living or dead. A light worker with no belief in the mystical world is lost. Our unseen counterparts are with us at all times. Both the seen and the unseen worlds come together in a place that connects us all through Source. As you read, you think, you process, and you wonder about the possibilities. Many people never had the chance to explore what seemed unreal because their upbringings or society wouldn't allow it. Today, as we experience this tremendous shift in consciousness, we all finally get a chance to believe. We can believe in magic, in fairy tales, or in ghosts that go bump in the night. It doesn't matter. There is a healing power in believing. Belief in the infinite power of Source, the infinite power of ourselves, and the universe that has been created for us. Believing makes all things possible, and when all things are possible, we can achieve anything.